Wherever we are, let us remember and acknowledge the traditional territories and languages of all whose ancestors were here before us. We recognize our responsibility to be stewards of this land. We do so in cooperation with the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, for whom this Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta is traditional territory. Mohkinstsis, the Blackfoot word for what is now the city of Calgary, is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. And we acknowledge that Treaty 7 was entered into as a collaboration between settlers and Indigenous peoples, making us all treaty people. Today, especially, we also acknowledge all those children on a night and a day when we acknowledge the quest of children for treats. We acknowledge the children who attended residential school and the aftermath of that experience. We remember them with respect.
We light our flaming chalice, symbol of our liberal religious heritage this morning, with the words of Joy Atkinson. The womb of stars embraces us. Remnants of their fiery furnaces pulse through our veins. We are of the stars, the dust of explosions cast across space. We are of the earth. We breathe and live in the breath of ancient plants and beasts. Their cells nourish the soil. We build our communities on their harvest of gifts. Our fingers trace the curves carved in clay and stone by forebearers unknown to us. We are part of the great circle of humanity gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar. We gather anew this day to celebrate our common heritage. May we recall in gratitude all that has given us birth. Amen. Good morning, I'm Reverend Shelley Thompson. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and welcome to our worship this glorious fall day. This time of year, many cultures have traditions and rituals to honor the end of harvest, the coming of winter, and the ancestors who laid the foundations of our lives. Halloween and Samhain are two such traditions. In honor of Halloween, because it's my favorite holiday, you're going to have two stories for all ages today. First, I'll tell you one, and then we'll get to sing a fun Halloween song, and then Sheila will come on, as usual, and give us her fabulous take on Halloween and invite us to her party tonight. I hope you can all come, all bundled up. There'll be fire and cocoa. And once we've had all of that Halloween fun, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to take time to learn about and observe the ancient origins of this tradition in Samhain, which is November 1st. It's the pagan New Year. Ancestors play an important part in this tradition. It was taken up by the early Christian church, where it became All Saints' Day, followed by All Souls' Day on November 2nd. In some countries, most notably Mexico, Dia de los Muertos is a joyous multi-day celebration of ancestors, family, and friends. Ancestry means so much to most of us, and it is, in fact, a very complex part of our identities. Here today is All Hallows Eve, or Halloween, the time most of us know for carving jack-o'-lanterns, dressing up in scary costumes, and going trick-or-treating for candy. The candy is the bribe for preventing the tricks. When I lived in Iowa, the Bible Belt, where I think Halloween was considered a little too pagan, I learned another tradition called Beggar's Night. It's October 30th, not the 31st. But the kids put on their costumes and they go out for candy. But instead of saying trick or treat, when the adult opens the door, the child has to say a knock-knock joke to get their candy. That's how it's done, Iowa style. A bag of candy by any other name tastes as sweet, right? In any case, all those ghosts and goblins and ghouls signify a belief that at midnight on Halloween night, the veil between this world and the next is thinnest, and we might just be visited by the spirits of our ancestors, or maybe other spirits, both good and bad. In Wiccan tradition, witches, with their brooms, which are designed for sweeping away evil, their conical hats, which focus their power, and their cauldrons and spells are all designed for protection. These things keep evil away from us. So the next time you meet a witch, if you're lucky enough to meet one, you might want to say thank you for keeping us all safe out there on Halloween. My favorite things about Halloween, besides the bags of candy, of course, are the jack-o'-lanterns. I love the smell of the carved pumpkins, the gooey mess of the seeds and the pulp, and then the taste of the roasted, salted pumpkin seeds, and the fantastic way, my favorite smell, of the candles burning inside of the jack-o'-lanterns in that fall crisp air, and it smells like they're just ever so slightly getting cooked on the inside. Love that smell. Well, I learned as a child that jack-o'-lanterns are meant to scare away evil spirits also, and they keep away anything that wants to harm us, which is why we put them by the door. You've got to protect your thresholds on Halloween in particular. But what I just learned yesterday from the History Channel is the origin of the jack-o'-lantern tradition. I learned that the name comes from an Irish folk tale about a man named Stingy Jack. Have any of you heard this story? I didn't know this one. And Irish and Scottish immigrants brought the tradition to America, and since I'm Scottish and came to Canada, this is a particular interest to me. I wonder if my ancestors knew about Stingy Jack. So here it is, the legend of Stingy Jack from the History Channel. People have been making jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween for centuries. The practice originated from an Irish myth about a man nicknamed Stingy Jack. According to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack did not want to pay for his drink. So he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. But once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money, and he put it in his pocket next to a silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back to his original form. Who knew? That's a good tip. Jack eventually freed the devil under the condition that he would not bother Jack for 1 year, and that should Jack die, he would not claim his soul. Well, the next year, Jack again tricked the devil into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. While he was up there, Jack carved the cross into the tree bark so that the devil could not come down until he promised Jack not to bother him for 10 more years. Well, less than 10 years later, Jack died. And as the legend goes, God would have no such person in heaven. Said, no, you don't qualify. Well, the devil was upset about the tricks Jack had played on him, and he had also promised not to claim his soul, so Jack couldn't go to hell either. He sent Jack the ghost off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. Well, those are hard to carry, so Jack put the coal into a carved-out turnip and has been roaming the earth ever since. So the Irish began to refer to this ghostly figure with the glowing turnip as Jack of the Lantern, and then simply, in grand Irish tradition, Jack-o'-lantern. He doesn't seem all that scary until you remember his proclivity for playing tricks. It's a good idea to steer clear. In Ireland and Scotland, people began to make their own version of Jack's lanterns by carving scary faces into turnips or potatoes. And in England, large beets are used. I've never seen this. I want to go see them. And they place them into the windows or near the doors. There again, we're going to frighten away Stingy Jack and other wandering evil spirits. It is important to protect your thresholds, your windows, and your doors. We do this in UU tradition when we have a house blessing. It's one of the things we're doing. We're clearing away the evil spirits and protecting those thresholds. Immigrants from Ireland and Scotland and England who came to the Americas discovered pumpkins. And they decided that pumpkins were a lot easier to carve and a little bit bigger and more exciting than turnips, and jack-o'-lantern pumpkins were born. These are the ones that I know and love today. How strange is it that jack-o'-lanterns became a way to scare off the ghost who invented them? Don't be a stingy Jack, the story says. Give out lots of candy. And now we get to sing Monster Mash.
She's right, we do. Here comes the Monster Mash. Now you've all got to put on your best Boris Karloff voices for this. He did the mash. The Monster Mash. Here we go. I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. He did the mash. It caught all in a flash. He did the mash. He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast, the ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrodes. They did the mash. They did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. They did the mash. It caught all in a flash. They did the mash. They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests included Wolfman and Dracula and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal groove. The Crip Kicker Five, they played the mash. They played the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. They played the mash. It caught on in a flash. They played the mash. They played the monster mash. Out from the coffin, Drax voice did ring. Seems he was troubled by just one thing. He opened the lid and shook his fist. Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist? It's now the mash. It's now the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It's now the mash. It caught on in a flash. It's now the mash. It's now the monster mash. Now everything's cool. Drax part of the band, and my monster mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you, and do the mash. And they'll do the monster mash, the monster mash, and do my graveyard smash. Then you can mash. You'll catch all in a flash. Then you can mash. Then you can monster mash. Mash good! Easy, Igor, you impetuous young boy. Ah, mash good! Yeah!
That was just fabulous. That's our music director, Jane Perry. I knew she was talented, but I didn't know she had all those voices. So I really enjoyed that. And I hope there was a lot of you dancing in the building and dancing at home, because I sure was dancing in my chair, the Monster Mash. Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm DRE Sheila, and my pronouns are she and her. And as Reverend Shelley mentioned, today is her favorite holiday. Halloween is also my favorite holiday, and I'm just throwing it out there. It might even be Jane's favorite holiday. So we're all just having a really good time today. As many of you know, Halloween has its roots in ancient Celtic festival Samhain And later in the service, Brandis Purcell is going to be telling us all about that. So stay tuned for that. Some things I love about our modern Halloween is, of course, trick-or-treating, getting to wear costumes, pumpkin carving, jack-o'-lanterns, or as Reverend Shelley mentioned, turnip carving from Celtic Ireland tradition. So today, if you get a chance, carve a pumpkin or carve a turnip. Either one is okay. I also love Halloween for the spooky feelings that we get, being a little bit scared of things. And so that leads us in today's Halloween story, Annie Was Warned by Jarrett J. Kroskova. So I'm very excited to share this with you. Spooky story. All right. Annie was warned. Spooky music already. On Halloween night, Annie sneaked out to the creepy old Montgomery mansion. Annie's parents told her not to go. It's got bats, they warned. Bats don't scare me, Annie said. Annie's big sister said she should stay away. It's full of creepy spiders, she cautioned. I like spiders, Annie smiled. Annie's friend James nodded. That place is haunted, all right, he said with a shudder. Then he grinned. I dare you to go. Ooh. And Annie was warned. But Annie wasn't scared. She stole down the quiet street and the moon was shining. And the wind was howling and the tall trees swayed in the breeze. But Annie wasn't afraid of anything. After all, she was born on Halloween night. And out of the corner of her eye, she saw something black fly by. Was it a bat? But there was only a cat licking its paws. Annie turned the corner and crept across the churchyard. Something tickled the back of her neck. Was it a spider? Annie spun around. It was just the leaves falling from the trees. The mansion loomed large in the night. Annie thought she heard whispers. Was it haunted? Annie took a deep breath and began to climb the stairs. And the signs were scram and shoo, stay away, danger, keep out. I'm warning you, whatever you do, don't open this door or else. Surprise! Happy birthday, Annie. And it was the best scare she had ever had. And that's how I feel about Halloween. That is a great time to feel a little spooky and a little scared, but the great surprise is spending time with your friends and family on Halloween. And so if you'd like to have a little spooky fun tonight, join us at the Calgary Unitarians back garden, 6:30 to 7:30. We're gonna have a fire pit and hot chocolate and hot tea, and we're gonna have a spooky maze. It's not too spooky, but just a little fun spooky. And for the first 22 kids that come out, we've got these amazing treat bags, full-size chocolate bar, and it's the spooky version. So this says Scario, and we also have Coffin Crisp, and we've got some stickers in there. So that's really going to be great. And I haven't forgotten all the adults. We have a cauldron full of candy to share with all of you as well. So come on out, and it's going to be a spooky good time. And what else is fun about Halloween? I would say, as well, as Ava Delaria says, on Halloween, you get to become anything you want to be, which is part of the fun. So I'm wishing all of you a very fun and spooky Halloween.
So now we move from the modern celebration of Halloween to the ancient pagan celebration of Samhain. Samhain, Samhain, let the ritual begin. We call upon our sacred ancestors to come in. Samhain, Samhain, in. We call upon our kin. We call upon our dear departed loved ones to come in. The veil between the worlds is thin. Our hearts reach across the sea of time to bring our loved ones in. Samhain, Samhain, we honor all our kin. We honor those who've gone before us. The great wheel turns again. Samhain, Samhain, we call upon our kin. We call upon our sacred ancestors to come in. Samhain, Samhain, we call them to come in. We call upon our dear departed loved ones to come in.
I'm going to speak a little bit about Samhain traditions and the Sabbats and holy days. There are 8 Sabbats or holy days in the pagan calendar. 4 of them are celestial: Yule, renewal and rebirth during winter; Ostara, the start of spring; Litha, midsummer magical power; and Mabon, second harvest and mysteries. And 4 of them are pastoral: Imbolc, the festival of lights to encourage the sun's return; Beltane, the return of full-blown fertility; Lugnasa, harvest of first fruits, Thanksgiving; and Samhain, the end of summer, a time when the dead are honored, and the pagan New Year. There are about 6 weeks between the holy days. Around the 8th century or so, the Catholic Church decided to use November 1st as All Saints' Day. This was actually a pretty smart move on their part. The local pagans were already celebrating that day anyway, so it made sense to use it as a church holiday. All Saints' Day became the festival to honor any saint who didn't already have a day of his or her own. The Mass, which was said on All Saints, was called All Hallow Mass, the Mass of all those who are hallowed. The night before naturally became known as All Hallows' Eve, and eventually morphed into what we call Halloween. Modern pagans call the time between All Hallows' Eve, that's tonight, and All Saints' Day, tomorrow, the time when the veil between the world thins and the spirits of the ancestors are closest. Religious scholars agree that the word Samhain, pronounced Samhain, comes from the Gaelic Samhain, but they're divided on whether it means the end or the beginning of summer. After all, when summer is ending here on Earth, pagans believe it's just beginning in the underworld. Sunset on Samhain, which is tonight, is the beginning of the Celtic and pagan New Year. The old year has passed, the harvest has been gathered, cattle and sheep have been brought in from the fields, city gardens have been mostly harvested, and the leaves have fallen from the trees. The earth slowly seems to change and lie dormant around us. This is a good time for us to look at wrapping up the old and preparing for the new in our lives. Think about the things you did in the last 12 months. Have you left anything unresolved? If so, now might be a good time to address those things. Once you've gotten all that unfinished stuff cleared away and out of your life, then you can begin looking towards the next year. For many of us, Samhain is when we honor our ancestors, those who went on before us. If you've ever done genealogy research, if you've felt a connection to generations gone by, or if you've had a loved one die in the past year, this is the perfect night to celebrate their memory. If we're fortunate, they will return to communicate with us from beyond the veil and offer advice, protection, and guidance for the upcoming year. This may happen in your conscious thought or in your dreams. If you want to celebrate Samhain in the Celtic tradition and be flexible so that you can work around trick-or-treating schedules, you may choose to spread the festivities out over 3 consecutive days. You can hold a ritual and a feast each night. Try one or all of these rituals to celebrate Samhain and welcome in the new year. Celebrating the end of the harvest, a ritual of thanks and well-being for animals, honoring the ancestors, holding a seance at Samhain, hosting a dumb supper. Sorry, you're going to have to Google this one. Honor the god and goddess at Samhain. Celebrate the cycle of life and death, and ancestor meditation. If you're celebrating Samhain as a pagan holiday, you may want to read up on some of the traditions of the secular celebration of Halloween. And thank you, Reverend Shelley, for the nice story about how the origins of Jack-o'-lantern. You might want to explore about how black cats are associated with Samhain or Halloween as well. And where did trick-or-treating come from? Those would be good things to look up. Samhain represents, among other things, the end of the harvest season. If you haven't picked it by Samhain, you probably won't be eating it. The gardens have died off by now, and where we once saw lush green plants, there's nothing left but dry and dead stalks. The perennials have shut down for the season too, going dormant so that they may return to us in the spring. Animals are brought in from the fields for the winter. And if you've ever had a spider come wandering into your living room one chilly October night, you know that even the insects and arachnids are trying to find a place to stay warm. If we had lived a few hundred years ago, we would not only have brought our cows and sheep in from the pastures, most likely we'd have slaughtered a few of them, as well as some pigs and goats, smoking the meat so that it would last through the cold months. Today, a lot of us are vegetarians or vegans, and we don't eat meat at all. But it is good to remember that even fruits and grains were once alive, and we should give our thanks to them for giving their life forces to feed us. And all of our herbs have been gathered. The grain that we reaped back at Lunasa has been baked into bread. All of our herbs have been gathered and dried, and some folks even hang them in the kitchen. People who want to celebrate Samhain in a formal manner may use a circle to do so. When your circle is cast, you can honor the goddess and god by having such things as candles to light in autumnal colors, and flowers and fruit which are only available at this time of year, such as pomegranates, on your altar. Write and recite an invitation to the goddess and god to join your celebrations. Use this time to honor your ancestors or anyone who has died in the past year. Take part in a simple feast. Dark bread and apple cider is one suggestion. Because Samhain is the pagan New Year, take a moment to meditate on new beginnings. Consider the gifts that you have been given over the past year, and think about how you might show your gratitude in the coming 12 months. As the old year dies, make room in the new year for new things in your life. You may not know yet what's coming, but you can certainly imagine, dream, and hope. Tonight, this night between the worlds, is the perfect time to imagine what things may come. And now we'll share a Samhain ritual honoring the ancestors. We will begin by invoking their presence and their blessings for the new year. Great ancestors of the land, great ones who helped shape this land and its people, we bring you greetings and welcome your presence here among us always. Great ancestors of our heroic past, great ones who have shaped our ethics and our freedom, we bring you greetings and welcome your presence here among us always. Great ancestors of our blood, great ones without whose blood we would not be, and without whose blood we cannot carry forth our legacy. We bring you greetings and welcome your presence here among us always. May the spirit of Samhain remain with us throughout the whole year. May our obstacles and snares vanish. May our intentions for repair and resolution take root and flourish. And may each one of us be protected, guided, and blessed by Spirit.
Within this ancestral cloud of witnesses, adding their blessings to our joys and concerns, I'm going to light a candle for all of our joys and concerns, the good news, the celebrations, all of the wonderful things that make life so rich and meaningful. And a candle for our sorrows and concerns, all that weighs us down, the burdens too heavy for us to carry alone. We ask that we carry them together in community. And a world candle for the joys and sorrows of everyone and all beings around the world, some known to us, some unknown to us. We wish, we pray that all beings may know the love, compassion, and mercy of community and humanity. And now I invite all of us present to come and light a candle for your ancestors. We have a candle to light with, and we have tea lights. And if you want to sort of make a socially distanced line, if you will, keep yourselves 6 feet apart to the best of your ability, and come on up and light a candle for your ancestors with intention and attention. Think of their names, offer them thanks, give them a blessing. Let's take this time to be present with our ancestors. of everyone who's not with us today. And one more, for our liberal religious heritage, the ancestors of our faith. And now we will sing breaths.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen to things than to beings. To see ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. To see ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. To see ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. To see ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. To see ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. To see ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
Who were your ancestors? Do you know many of them? Can you say some of their names? If you can, what does it mean to you to do so? Do you have the privilege of knowing your heritage? Not everyone does. Beyond focusing on the memories of the people you knew, do you think about the rest of your ancestors? How far back does your mind go? Whom do you claim? And whose are you? Many of us, when we think of ancestors, these are our older relatives, our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, and so on and so on. The genetic lineage that resulted in our birth. Many might include other relatives like aunts and uncles, people you knew growing up, who influenced you in some way. We don't get to choose those kind of ancestors. They're a part of who we are in our DNA. Whoever they were, whatever they did, for better or for worse, their lives led to our own. Because they were human, We might have conflicting feelings about these people and how they lived their lives. What, if anything, do you feel that you owe to your ancestors? Do you honor them? How do you honor them? Or why do you not? We have another ancestry, another heritage that we do choose, our liberal religious heritage. Sometimes these folks got it right, and sometimes they really got it wrong. Dissidents and martyrs and reformationists who challenged doctrine and the church. Heretics. They sometimes burned witches. Abolitionists who nevertheless favored segregation, and white suffragettes who rejected their black sisters. Civil rights activists, justice makers, and peace builders who rejected black ministers and who perpetuated systems of white supremacy while refusing accountability for dismantling racism within our own institutions. Our mixed heritage of good and bad, the two sides of our human nature. Whatever else those folks did, they did further the cause of religious freedom and the power to choose. The word heretic means a person who chooses their own beliefs. Fruitcakes and heretics, that's us. Do you claim this religious heritage as Unitarian Universalists? Are these your people? How do you feel about them? What do we owe them? How do we honor them while accepting their human frailty? I take a great interest in my own ancestry and heritage. I'm a person who's adopted, and so for most of my life I didn't know anything about my genetic origins, my official ancestors, except that my birth mother was Italian. It's a really strange thing to take from someone, their ancestry, their heritage, their past. Of course, it's not just adoptees who have this issue. Many people are estranged from at least some of their family of origin in one way or another. Not at all uncommon. For some people, they never give it a second thought. For others of us, it leaves a big hole and a longing for answers, for the truth about who we are and where we came from. On a large scale, a long history of warfare, imperial conquest, colonization, enslavement, ethnic cleansing, and genocide has stolen and tried to erase the cultures and heritages of millions and millions of people worldwide. The Jewish people, the First Nations peoples, the descendants of enslaved Africans, the Tibetan people, among many, many others. The isolation and despair that can result from such wrenching, devastating, sweeping losses can and do become another kind of genetic lineage, a way of being that is passed down through the generations and impacts bodies and souls alike. Many such wounds never heal. More and more, our science is showing us those effects in peoples who have been oppressed and marginalized. I think about that a lot because of my own heritage and my identity as a European American. Thanks to my DNA and my genetic genealogy research, I now know a lot about my ancestry. I have that gift, that blessing that others don't. My people were all European settlers, colonists and immigrants. The very earliest were English Quakers who came in the 1650s to what became Rhode Island. My ancestor from that line, which led to my paternal grandmother, married an ancestor who was a colonist from Vermont, and they moved to Ontario before the American Revolution. On my paternal grandfather's side of my family, they came over from Scotland at the beginning of the mid-1850s, after the Highland clearances and the potato famine, when they became settlers on treaty land. Poor crofters driven out by wealthy landowners to go live on someone else's land, the Saugeen Nation, Treaty 45 and a half from 1836. My father moved to California in the 1950s, so I'm 50% first-generation Scottish Canadian American. He moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, where I grew up on the land of the Ohlone peoples, who were missionized and massacred by the Spanish colonists, but who still persist. On my mother's side, both of my grandparents and their families all the way back were from southern Italy. My maternal grandfather came to the United States through Ellis Island in 1906, and my grandmother, a mail-order bride of sorts, came through in 1921. So I'm a second-generation Italian-American immigrant. They lived in and around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the town of Ambridge, where my mother grew up, was called Logstown before the Revolution, and it was the site of an ancient Indian village of great importance in early colonial affairs. It was an Indian metropolis of a large region. In August of 1749, Logstown had 50 cabins, which were inhabited by Mohawks, Senecas, Oneidas, and Delawares. It is a very complex land story that I have lived. And now I'm here in Calgary, a Treaty 7 person with the Blackfoot Confederacy. I've moved around a lot, and I confess I don't know the lands that I have occupied in the past, not all of them. But I certainly appreciate this new understanding and awareness that we need to practice our land acknowledgements. It gives us all the opportunity to learn about our shared history, to honor our current relationships in the interconnected web of all existence, and to make peace with our neighbors. In that spirit of acknowledging where we come from, I'm a religious naturalist, so I like to go way, way back. I like to think about the Australopithecines and our primate ancestors in Africa, and then back through all of the mammals, and then back through the dinosaurs, way, way back to the Precambrian when it was just little single-celled microorganisms and primordial goo. There's goo in here. The Earth itself is a child of the stars, the solar nebula out of which the sun and all of the current planets formed, which in turn came from the stardust of a previous supermassive star that exploded. It went supernova. And all the heavy elements that we know and appreciate here on Earth came from that star long, long ago. The womb of stars embraces us. Remnants of their fiery furnaces pulse through our veins. We are of the stars, the dust of explosions cast across space. We are of the earth. We breathe and live in the breath of ancient plants and beasts. Their cells nourish the soil. We build our communities on the harvest of their gifts. Our fingers trace the curves carved in clay and stone by forebears unknown to us. We are a part of the great circle of humanity, gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar. We gather anew this day to celebrate our common heritage. May we recall in gratitude all that has given us birth. And now we'll sing one of my favorite songs, We Are.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Let us also honor this community by being generous. It's time for the offering.
Invite you into a spirit of reflection, meditation, or prayer. Inspired by We Are, my colleague Manish Mishra Marzetti wrote a poem, Song of the Universe. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Listen carefully. Can you still hear the song? The one sung for you when you were born. The song sung by a cosmos in motion, rejoicing at your life. You, the result. You, the outcome. You, the celebration. Listen carefully. Can you hear it still? A song of possibility. A reminder that we still have time to be who and what we need to be. Listen carefully. The vast expanse echoes a recognition that it's not always easy. Possibilities can be hard to pursue. Roads not taken, wrong turns, destinations that disappoint. Through this, the song persists. The universe sings, no less because time and space wear us thin. The music calls us to recognize our limitations, to recognize that the song is best sung with others. Here in community, bringing alive that most primordial and original impulse, the desire to sing to the universe who we are, to celebrate and share our lives with others. Again, the words of Joy Atkinson, we are a part of the great circle of humanity, gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar. We gather anew this day to celebrate our common heritage. May we recall in gratitude all that has given us birth. Happy Halloween, joyous Samhain. Please come to the Halloween party and join us in singing now a Gaelic blessing.
This is a song that some of us will know. Anybody who's ever followed classical choir tradition has heard this piece as set by John Rutter. This, of course, though, is a very ancient blessing. I'm going to sing it once for us, and then I'll invite us all to sing along as we do it a second time. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the gentle night to you. Moon and stars pour their healing light on you. Deep peace of love, of love, the light of the world to you. Deep peace of love to you. Let's sing together. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. give thanks to all of us for having been here today. Thanks to the folks at home, and we invite you to join us for virtual coffee hour. The link to our Zoom coffee has just appeared or will shortly appear in the chat area of your screen. And to those who are present today in Panabaker Hall, thank you for being with us today. If it's not too chilly for us all, we'll convene in Wickenden Garden for conversation. Thanks all. Be well.